Hello, Will here, and in this video I'm going to talk about a holistic approach to wellness in schizophrenia. Now, there's a lot out there about holistic cures and holistic medicine. There's a lot of misconceptions about what it means to be holistic, so I just want to kind of talk about my perspective of it and just go into the various dimensions of wellness within a person's life, but specifically within the life of someone who suffers from schizophrenia. Now, I suffer from schizophrenia myself, and I think that I'm doing pretty well. So I want to be able to share with you my approach to wellness living with schizophrenia. And you may see out there's cures for schizophrenia, eat this food or eat this herb or take this vitamin or whatever. That's not true. There's no cure for schizophrenia. Now, there are things you can do to improve the experience of schizophrenia, I guess you could say, but if something does help with schizophrenia, there's a reason for it. It's not something that but it's not something that's a cure for schizophrenia. If you have schizophrenia, you will always have it. And the object of holistic wellness is to promote wellness rather than cure or eliminate what's causing the disease. So, holistic approach to wellness with schizophrenia is really about living a fulfilling life with schizophrenia, not necessarily curing schizophrenia. So let's get started. So the SAMHSA Dimensions of Wellness. SAMHSA is the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. It's a government agency that promotes these holistic dimensions of wellness, and there are 8 of them. There are 8 dimensions of wellness. All should be approached and considered when trying to improve your life for any reason, but specifically with mental illness or with substance abuse. So there are 8 of them. There is the physical, emotional, intellectual, spiritual, financial, social, occupational, and environmental dimensions of wellness. So in this video, we're going to approach all 8 of them, and I'm going to give you some tips on how to improve your life in each of these dimensions. Now, support for someone with schizophrenia merely entails being present. You're not really shouldn't do too much for them, but try to get them to do things for themselves. And if you have schizophrenia, try to be independent, try to do things for yourself and not rely so much on other people to get things done. Allow the person with schizophrenia to make his or her own decisions. Um, don't act like that you're their guardian, or don't act like you know better than they do. Just because they have schizophrenia does not mean they're stupid, and they are able to make their own decisions. Allow the person to identify disparities, but not to validate weaknesses. So if the person is in need of something, go ahead and let them express that, but don't let them say they can't do something for themselves, or they can't accomplish their goals because they have this particular weakness or that particular weakness. You want to validate strengths, not weaknesses. So the first dimension I want to address is the physical dimension. Now, of course, what that entails may seem kind of obvious. Exercise and diet is very important. Exercise regularly. Use slow-moving exercises over a long period of time, which will improve heart and cardiovascular system. And that will actually, improvement of the cardiovascular system and the heart will actually improve symptoms of schizophrenia, as well as getting good sleep, which I'll talk about in a minute. Abstain from tobacco and recreational drugs, even if you think they are medicinal. Now, a lot of people say tobacco is, with schizophrenia helps with the voices, and it's true, it does, but it does so much more in a negative way that really will make schizophrenia worse, and it will actually diminish the potency and the efficacy of your medication. So in that sense, it will make schizophrenia worse. Marijuana will make schizophrenia worse. Um, any kind of recreational drug will make schizophrenia worse. It doesn't matter how much you think there is of an improvement. These things will inhibit your recovery. Get proper nutrition. Don't overdo it. Eat a balanced diet and drink plenty of water. So don't be like, well, I'm going to lose weight, so I'm going to do keto or some kind of extreme diet, paleo or veganism or something like that. I mean, if you want to be vegan for moral reasons or whatever, then that's up to you. But veganism is not necessarily healthier, and it's really, for schizophrenia, you do need all the nutrients. You need them all in order to improve your life and improve your symptoms, macronutrients and micronutrients. So it's important to eat a balanced diet. Don't eat too much. Don't eat too little. Don't eat too much of a certain nutrient. Don't eat too little. Don't do the green shakes and plant-based diet or whatever. Don't do anything extreme. Eat meat. Eat dairy if you can tolerate it. Eat vegetables. Eat fruits. Eat grains. And just eat a, like I said, a balanced diet, not anything extreme. See the primary care physician at least once per year. And you want to go have those labs done, have your primary care physician test you out for vitamin D, vitamin B12, stuff like that. Test out your things like prolactin levels. Your medications may cause an increase in prolactin. You don't want that, so if that's going on, you need to know. You need to know all the things that your primary care physician will test for, and communicate with him if you're having any kind of physical ailments. Finally, go to the dentist. Dental work is extremely important. You could develop a lot of physical and in turn mental problems, having bad teeth, having bad gums, having a diseased dental system. So go to the dentist at least 2 or 3 times a year. Okay, the next dimension is the emotional dimension. So the first thing I'd like to say about the emotional dimension is address your values. Have good values when it comes to living. Toxic values will cause emotions that are toxic when you start thinking about your state in life. So example would be you may value friendship, you may value family, and those things are important. But if your friends or your family are exploiting you, then you might want to change how you formulate that value. You may value friendship, but if you value it in such a way that you think it's okay to let your friendships wreak havoc on your life, and not, you value family more than you value healthy relationships, including relationships with your family members, that's going to inhibit your recovery from schizophrenia or from any mental illness. And really, you could develop a mental illness if you don't have one already, having those toxic relationships. So make sure you have, that's just an example. We'll get into the social dimension later, but have good values. And if they are toxic, if they are wreaking havoc on your life, then kind of reconsider why you value what you value, and kind of change your values if need be. Get specialized counseling if you can, such as CBT for schizophrenia. This will help you to deal with thoughts and emotions that are random and unwarranted. Now, people with schizophrenia have a lot of random thoughts, a lot of bizarre thoughts, and a lot of inappropriate or unwarranted thoughts. Now, inappropriate doesn't necessarily mean sexual or anything that would be offensive. It's just like you might talk about something happy and then they start crying, or you might talk about somebody died and then they laugh, or something that doesn't go with the real mood of the situation. And CBT for schizophrenia or some kind of specialized counseling can help the person with schizophrenia deal with that tendency. Also delusions and auditory and visual hallucinations, paranoia. Counseling can help somebody with schizophrenia deal with those aspects of their lives as well. And it really is kind of, having schizophrenia is kind of a part of who you are at the point of when the condition comes to a head, and you really do have to learn to live with it for the rest of your life. And it doesn't have to be hard. It's just you're going to spend the rest of your life different from everybody else and abnormal. But in this day and age, the abnormal are actually kind of looked up at or admired. So don't be afraid of being different. Don't be afraid of being abnormal. Now, if you feel lonely, tell someone. Tell someone immediately if you have thoughts of harming yourself. Now, schizophrenia is not the same thing as depression, although sometimes there's certain symptoms that kind of overlap, but people with schizophrenia get depression simply because schizophrenia can be in itself depressing. So it affects the way you connect with people, it affects the way you connect with the world around you, and it can get pretty lonely just simply having schizophrenia, even though you might be around people. So if you do feel lonely, just go ahead and tell somebody that you feel lonely, and hopefully they'll understand why you're saying that. If they don't, tell them you have schizophrenia, and people with schizophrenia feel lonely even though they're around people, because that's just a part of what the condition is. And hopefully somebody will have insight to that and help you to not feel lonely anymore. But if you are having thoughts of harming yourself, you do need to tell somebody right away. Take your medications as prescribed. More is not better, and not at all is not good at all. I've worked with the mentally ill myself, and I've had clients say, these medications, they work good, so if I take more, it's better. No, it's not. More is not better. You need to take the right amount of medication. Not taking your meds at all, thinking you're going to go some other route is just, I've never seen that happen. I've never seen anybody recover from schizophrenia that did not take medication. So medication is extremely important, even though it's not everything. It's still a significant amount of something for it to be necessary for you to take medication. So take your meds as prescribed, and that will affect your mental state and your emotional state. So it's important to maintain good emotions, and your meds will do that. So the intellectual dimension, that's that is your thoughts and your cognition and things like that. So one thing to do is to study up on schizophrenia and know your symptoms. Communicate well with your doctor. You need to kind of know, what's not normal in your life. There's a lot of things schizophrenia entails that people go through that may seem like normal. You may think everybody goes through that. Well, they don't. Having thoughts repeat over and over again in your head. I mean, sometimes people get a song stuck in their head or something like that, but for you to meditate on every single little thing that comes in your head is not normal. You need to tell your doctor that if that's what's going on. Voices are not necessarily something you hear in your ear. Voices could be just thoughts in your head that seem like, or that, occur in such a way that you think people are actually talking to you, either telepathically, thought insertion, things like that. tell your doctor about that. So, but study up on schizophrenia, study blogs, study YouTube videos about how people describe what schizophrenia is like for them, and you'll kind of be insightful as to what to look for in terms of what's in need of treatment so that you can tell your doctor about it. Engage in activities of self-expression such as art, writing, or music. Start a blog, paint, or get a musical instrument and sing songs. So, again, you have schizophrenia. You're going through a lot of thought issues, bizarre thoughts, inappropriate thoughts, things like that, so that you want to be able to express those and get those out in such a way. It's really for your own therapy, so that you can have that come back at you in such a way off of the self-expression, whatever it is, the painting, the song, the poem, or the short story, or the movie that you make, or whatever. Have it come back at you in such a way that you can process it. Because with mental health, processing is the main part of the cognitive aspect of recovery, the intellectual aspect of recovery. You need to be able to process your thoughts and be able to put them away, no matter how random or how perpetuating they may be in your mind. You need to be able to do something with those thoughts so that they're not taking over your life. Use self-expression to communicate the bizarre and random thoughts you experience. No one has to see it, but you can share it with others if you want. And sharing it with others kind of helps, at least with people you trust, because then they have more insight as to what you go through, so that they can be more empathetic and more helpful in their support for you. Another thing you could do is go to school and learn an art or trade. Get a GED if you don't have a high school diploma. If you don't have a high school diploma, yes, I think you should get a GED, just because in hopes that someday you might get a job. It's very difficult to get a job without a high school diploma or a GED, simply because that proves that you know how to read, and most jobs need you to know how to read for safety reasons. That's why everybody has to have a high school diploma. It's like proof that you are literate and that you can comprehend and understand things like safety data sheets and stuff like that, or anything that requires being safe in the workplace. But get a GED, and if you don't have a high school diploma, if you do have a high school diploma, go to college, learn a trade, even if it's just for your own enrichment. Learn how to do something so that you can do something in your life that's worthwhile and that's meaningful. Read books, articles, and blogs on areas of personal interest. Never stop learning. Okay? So I know with schizophrenia you have lots of interest in things, but at least that, for most people with schizophrenia, that's not all the time. Most people with schizophrenia at least want to talk about something. If you're talking and conversing with people, you're interested in something. You're interested in the subject of whatever it is you're talking about. It doesn't have to be an obsession. It doesn't have to be something you do all the time. But if you converse with somebody and they talk about something that's interesting to you, go online and learn more about it, even if it's just for a day or a couple of days, to gain more insight on what it was you were talking about. Maybe go back to the person and talk about it some more. I knew somebody who would read things simply to have something to say when people discuss and talk about things in the world and in politics and in entertainment and religion and stuff like that. So go ahead and just read up on stuff. Anything that comes to mind that you want to learn about, that you want to learn more about, go ahead and do that. Okay, the next dimension is the spiritual dimension. Everybody believes in something. Even if you're an atheist, you believe in something. Find a spirituality or a way of going outside yourself and stick to it. Now, for me, it was Catholicism, and I still think that's the truest thing. It's the most universal thing for everybody. It is for everybody, regardless of where you're coming from in life. And so that's what I promote on this channel. But you can just do whatever it is you do to be spiritual or to be virtuous or whatever it is that likens to spirituality. If you're an atheist or somebody that's not necessarily spiritual, utilize your spirituality to deal with shame and guilt properly. Remember, guilt is healthy, but shame is not. So people with schizophrenia tend a lot of people with depression do too. Deal with a lot of shame and a lot of guilt, and they don't know how to process it and how to deal with it. With Catholicism, you can go to confession, and the priest will help you process that shame and guilt. But whatever it is your spiritual director does to help you process shame and guilt, it's probably going to be a little bit different than a counselor, but it is usually very effective to let go of the things you've done. Know we've all hurt people. I've hurt people. People have hurt me. And so when I think about the people that hurt me and the people I hurt, uh, it helps me to realize the importance of forgiveness. And I would want to be forgiven if I hurt somebody, which I have. And a lot of those people, I don't even know if they forgive me. But I need to forgive people, and that's just one way of getting rid of that shame, is that if you don't put other people to shame, then why should you feel ashamed? It's kind of what goes around comes around, you reap what you sow, stuff like that. Connect with others as it relates to your higher power. That means don't connect with others as it doesn't relate to your higher power as well. Like if you are Catholic, don't fornicate, don't do gay stuff, don't connect with others in that way. But you still want to connect with others in a way that relates to your higher power. Connect with others in charity and if you want platonic love or agape, or connect with others in friendships and fraternal connections and things like that. Discover the true meaning of love. Pray, meditate, and contemplate regularly, but don't overdo it. Remember that you still have responsibilities in other aspects of life. So, a lot of religions want to talk about enlightenment, including Catholicism. Enlightenment is important. You need to know what you believe in, and you need to know what transcends you, not necessarily know it all, but know something of it. And contemplation is a good way to kind of realize where you are, and so that you can continue on with where you're going. Meditation helps you to basically reset yourself and center yourself and rebalance yourself. And prayer helps you to keep your hopes up, knowing that you can surrender yourself to your higher power, and he will, or she will, take care of you. And no matter what happens, it's going to be okay. So prayer, meditation, and contemplation are key elements to most spiritualities, I think. I don't know about all spiritualities, but they will really help your life to be centered, focused, fulfilling, and hopeful. The financial dimension. Okay, so this is seems pretty easy peasy, but it's probably easier said than done. Budget right and live within your means. This kind of comes back to values. Some people don't live within their means because they value materialism, and they want more than what they can afford. They want more than what they have. And so they try their best to go out and get it because that's how they validate themselves and that's how they feel worth something. A lot of people measure their worth by what they have and how much money they have, and most people with schizophrenia don't have a lot of money, and so they feel worthless, and so they need to go out and buy stuff to feel like they're worth something. Um, don't think that way. Again, change your values. Value things like minimalism. Uh, uh, I, I, I don't misinterpret me, but humanism. Value humanitarianism and value things in life that are free and that money can't buy. Those are the best things in life, and if you have those things, everybody with money will probably be jealous of you, and that's probably what you want anyway with buying stuff. So don't live above your means and budget your money correctly. Don't allow others to take advantage of you financially. Don't think that your friends will be better friends if you buy them things. That doesn't make any sense, and that's not the way it's going to turn out. You don't even think you're a better friend for doing that. That's not the case. That's just incorrect. Uh, if you have friends that always ask for stuff and you're budgeting your money and you're living within your means, maybe give them a little bit of counseling as to how they can live within their means and to kind of tell them, stop asking me for stuff all the time. I'm not going to give it to you. I don't think that's going to help you, and I think you need to, whatever. There's nothing wrong with telling people what they need to do if you're their friend or if you're their family. If you're a case manager or a doctor or some kind of vendor, it's not right. But if you're a close friend, if you're a close family member, it's okay to give people advice. Give them advice on how they can not have to ask for stuff all the time and not have to be so needy. If you're unhappy with your current financial state, find other sources of income. Again, it all boils down to values, and it all boils down to validating your strengths. So if you do value having more money to do whatever with it, and you don't think you can work, that's going to make you very depressed. So kind of find your strengths, validate your strengths, and go out and get a job. SSI only takes away $1 for every $2 you make, so you could consider it making half of what you actually make. If you go out and get a job for $12 an hour, you're really only working for $6 an hour, but it's still more than what you would have if you didn't work. And if you're intelligent enough, which I'm sure most of you are, to get a decent paying job to work part-time, that's still more. Part-time minimum wage is more than what SSI pays, let me tell you that much. But part-time making $20, $30 an hour, just do that. Try to have some money left over at the end of the month and save enough money for months where you are overextended. That's any financial advisor will advise you to do that, and to do that as quickly as possible. Get a cushion for your financial situation so that when you do run into those emergencies, you'll have something and it won't ever overextend you for that month, because if you're living from paycheck to paycheck every month, being overextended 1 month is your demise for sure, your financial demise. Spend money on yourself, reserve an amount in your budget for miscellaneous spending, and just have that mad money reserved, and reserve a significant amount of it. Because you do need to be happy. I'm not saying materialistic, but sometimes you need an extra shirt. Maybe you want to go to an event and you need a shirt for it, or you need something for your kitchen once in a while, or you need to go out to eat once in a while, or whatever. Go ahead and treat yourself well. You can afford it. And even on SSI, you can afford at least $100 a month for miscellaneous spending. Okay, the social dimension. Now, first and foremost, I would say be well dressed and groomed when engaging with others. Don't be smelly. Don't be dirty. Don't have. I used to go around. You may see it in some of my videos that I made in a scraggly beard, long hair, and thinking that looked good. And that did not look good. It doesn't look good as good as I look now. I used to be smelly. I used to be. Even when I was working, I was not the greatest in grooming and hygiene, and it's because I didn't care. But other people cared, and I should care about that. So if you in this rut of not grooming and not bathing because you just don't care about it, because you don't think it's not that you would regret doing it. You just don't think about it. You just don't think it's important. Other people think it's important, and if those other people are important to you, then the grooming should be important to you because what's important to them should be important to you. Just think of it like that. Make friends with people who are compassionate, understanding of your mental health challenges. Now, you're always gonna have mental health challenges, and you need to be around people who are supportive, not people who are gonna tear you down. Even if it's family members that tear you down, I don't say get rid of them, but just don't spend too much time around them and don't let them get you down. But you do need to be around people that are going to build you up and think the best of you and help you to think the best of people altogether. So make friends and hang around family that will be compassionate and understanding of where you're coming from, just like you would do for them or anybody would do for anybody who's a friend. Go to settings that foster compassion and understanding, such as church and other religious or charitable establishments. This is where you're going to meet people like that. People that value the things that need to be valued in order to be supportive of you who suffer from schizophrenia. And these types of places that foster compassion and understanding, churches, synagogues, mosques, temples of whatever sort, churches, even like charitable organizations like Rotary International. I'm trying to think of some, the Elks Lodge or whatever. If they just ask them, can you be understanding of what I'm going through? If you're not sure if they can be, go ahead and ask them. Don't be afraid to be open about your mental illness. The stigma these days is a lot different than it was 20, 30 years ago, even though that sort of stigma is still around a little bit. It's only around in sort of a tongue-in-cheek kind of way, like, oh, are you going to come in here with a gun and kill all of us? I shouldn't say that, but most people don't believe that that's what people with schizophrenia do on a regular basis. They don't believe they're going to go and kill people and with guns and be violent or whatever. Most people know people with schizophrenia are very docile usually and very meek and humble, and they should be very accepting of you because they have been of me. People at churches, specifically Catholic churches, have been accepting of me with schizophrenia and seem to be understanding, but if they don't understand, they want to understand. So don't be afraid to be open about your mental illness and go to these settings and let them know where you're coming from and find out if they can be accepting and embracing and supportive. Have friends who are not mentally ill and that have established lives so that they may inspire you to have a normal, healthy life. It seems like the mental health population is a culture, like a cult or something. It's like birds of a feather flock together, and people with mental illnesses are friends with people with mental illnesses, and people without mental illnesses are not friends with people with mental illnesses. It shouldn't be that way. That's not the way it should be. People with mental illnesses are just have a medical condition, just like anybody with a medical condition. They shouldn't be separate. They shouldn't be segregated or anything like that. And it's really our own doing for doing that, using our mental illness as a sort of a conversation piece That's not something, it's like, oh, you have a mental illness, I have a mental illness, what's your diagnosis, and what meds are you on, who's your doctor, and it's sort of like, that's what you ask right off the bat, and it's an icebreaker type thing, and it shouldn't be that way. Just try to make friends with anybody, whether they have a mental illness or not, but if you find that all your friends have mental illnesses, try to make a sort of an effort or some kind of just deliberately make friends with people that don't have mental illnesses and find out how they live and try to use that as an inspiration for you to have a normal life, or even people with mental illnesses that have a normal life, that have jobs, that have careers, that have their own place or family, married, children, stuff like that, and don't make recovery your whole life. The mistake I made was I kind of wore my diagnosis on my sleeve when I worked in mental health. And it was like I was mentally ill for a living. Let's not do that. Let's not be in the business of being sick. Let's be in the business of being well and being happy and being joyful and loving life. Share common interests with people, but also find people with contrasting interests so that you will be inspired to try new things. So it's good to be with people with common interests, so you have something to talk about right off the bat. But even people without common interests, you can ask them about what they're interested in and find out about it as if it's something you don't know about, which it probably is. Maybe something you might have wanted to get into. Like, I want to get into fishing, so I'll probably find somebody that fishes and try to go fishing with them and learn how to go fishing, because I never learned how to go fishing. So that's just one example, but try to do that. Gain insight to your condition so that you can share the details of it with those who you trust outside of therapy. And it's important to be able to share yourself, including your mental conditions, your thoughts, your feelings, regardless of how abnormal they may be, outside of therapy. You shouldn't have to rely on case managers and counselors to get everything you need, especially emotional needs and intellectual needs and social needs. You're not really supposed to socialize with your case manager or your therapist. You're supposed to socialize with people out in the world and outside of your services. So try to socialize with family, and again, try to make friends, but gain insight to your illness so that you can explain yourself to them and explain who you are. Because as somebody with schizophrenia, you're an enigma, and nobody's going to be able to figure you out. You're going to have to explain. Okay, the occupational dimension. Be productive through the day. Have a sense of accomplishment. So don't get into, maybe you might, when I was working in mental health, there was a service that helped people to get adjusted to working. And basically they were just menial tasks. It was just like busy work. Just to get them adjusted to things like getting up at the right time, being at the place at the right time. It wasn't really to develop job skills or anything like that. But a lot of people would say, oh, I'm going to work. I'm going to this place, and this is my work. But it really was just busy work to have something to do so that they could gain their skills and gain their maybe soft skills or whatever, so that they could be able to get like an actual competitive job, not some job that's provided to them by the government. Do more than just busy work. Do something meaningful. The occupational dimension is about a meaningful day and having meaning in your life through your work and through your efforts. Go to school, study online or independently, and put into action what you have learned. So going to school would be more intellectual, and I talked about it in the intellectual dimension, but for here, go to school for some specific trade or art that you can actually apply to your life and uh, uh, apply what you've learned so that you can kind of actualize yourself and express yourself and do something in the world that has meaning so that you can at least get some acknowledgement that you exist and that you're worthy of life. Not that you're not worthy of life and not that you don't exist, but we all want to be acknowledged that we are good people and that we do good work and that we exist. Don't just sit in your apartment and smoke cigarettes all day and watch TV and eat TV dinners. Do something productive and have a sense of accomplishment throughout the day. Get involved with services such as community services or church services. That's perfect because that's something you can get into right away. You won't make any money, but that's okay. At least it's something to do, and it's something worthwhile. Get a job, either part-time or full-time if you have a trade or skill. Good. If you do, that's good. If you maybe know carpentry or electrician or you know how to mow lawns, you know how to do landscaping, or if you know how to paint a living room or paint a house. If you can babysit, if you know how to do hair, go ahead and do those things. You can do them as a part-time employment, or you can do them freelance to make extra money. But do something so that you can be fulfilled be occupied throughout the day, not just busy, but occupied, and your mind is being used for something worthwhile that you can take at the end of the day or at the end of the week and enjoy and say, I did this, I made this, this is what my week was like, instead of just saying, I don't know, didn't do much or anything, you know. So another thing you can do is engage in hobbies. Now, don't be obsessed with your hobbies, but hobbies are another way of finding something to do to occupy your mind and occupy your emotions and occupy your life and occupy yourself. Hobbies like building models or, you know, things you find at Hobby Lobby or places like that. But it could also be like what I'm doing with this vlog or the blog, or you might want to, you know, take something you do for your intellectual dimension and turn it into some kind of production of some sort, and that can be your hobby as well. Okay, finally, the environmental dimension. Now, this kind of is in itself multidimensional, at least for me, because SAMHSA defines this dimension as like recycle and don't pollute and stuff like that. And we're on Earth, and this is our Earth and stuff like that. And I address that, I'll address that in a minute. But first and foremost, in this particular dimension, I want to address your habitat. Keep it clean. This I noticed behind me I've got some bottles on the table and stuff like that. I'm in the midst of cleaning my room. Those bottles are really just because it's so arid and dry here, and I go through those bottles in literally one night. So, but yeah, keep your habitat clean, keep yourself clean. This will promote good physical and mental health. Engage in activities of daily living such as grocery shopping, cooking, laundry, etc. Do those things. Keep your house and your home in good order. Clean your bathroom. Clean your toilet. Cook your meals. Don't order out a lot and stuff like that. That also affects the environment of your home because you'll have a lot of trash if you eat out a lot. If you cook a lot, you don't have as much. You just might have some food scraps or whatever. But a lot of the stuff goes down to garbage disposal, which isn't much anyway. So don't eat out a lot and make a lot of trash. Don't eat a lot of packaged foods and make a lot of trash in your apartment because What might happen is you might get in a rut and not take out your trash, or it's just inevitable, okay? I'm just saying that right off the bat. Sometimes your trash will overflow, and you don't want it to overflow quickly and have to take out the trash often living your life, because that garbage will accumulate really quickly and you'll get in a lot of trouble and it'll be really dirty and stuff like that. So try not to produce a lot of trash for that reason, and keep your environment safe and clean and stable. Develop a quiet habitat. Don't use headphones often, and try to meditate and contemplate in a quiet setting at home. And I know you're probably going, what? I was told to wear headphones all the time because I hear voices. No. But I speak from experience. You will become extremely psychotic if you wear headphones all the time. So don't wear headphones too much. Don't listen to music too much. Try to be in quiet as much as you can, because the more quiet you experience, the more quiet your mind will be, and the less you'll hear voices. Try not to accumulate too many possessions. Don't be a hoarder, please. Don't be a hoarder. Don't necessarily be a minimalist where you just have a backpack and that's it. But you can have some things, but have the right amount of stuff. Don't have too much stuff where you can't walk around. Don't have more stuff than you can stow away in your storage in your apartment. Don't go out to public storage and get storage just to keep your stuff. Just because you want to have stuff. That just doesn't make any sense, especially since it costs money to have stuff that you spent money on in the first place. That's absurd. So don't accumulate too many possessions, and be aware of the environmental impact on the things you consume and the activities you engage in, like I talked about before. So those are the dimensions of wellness, and that's just the holistic approach to schizophrenia. And I want to thank you for watching, and like this video if you liked it. Press the like button, the thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and log on to the blog at recuperate.com, and just leave a comment in the player, or log on to the blog and read some of the blog posts and leave comments in there. Let me know what you think of this, and thanks for watching. God bless.